Be the Good is all about people doing good in the world while following their passions. Good for their own souls and for others. I'm Kate Chericello, and welcome to today's episode. If you are enjoying these stories, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much. You can also join our Facebook community under the group title, Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world.
Today on Be the Good, I have Jonathan Asayag with me, who is co-founder of Renew Wellness Psychotherapy. Now, the majority, almost all of the guests this season on the show have been people I've only just met, but I've been lucky enough to know Jonathan for years, and he has just always been such an example of warmth and a welcoming spirit and just being the good in the world, which is what this show is all about. So I'm really excited to hear from him today as he shares about being a therapist. And you'll also hear, and if you don't hear, I'm going to make him talk about it, all of the volunteer work he has done and just the positive impact he's made on his community and beyond. So Jonathan, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited.
Oh, you bet, Jonathan. Absolutely my honor. So please tell us more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Yes, so my name is Jonathan. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I also have my certification in advanced drug and alcohol counseling. I've been working as a therapist and in human service for over a decade. So I've been privileged to work with various populations, starting early in my career with young people in foster care, through the criminal justice system, helping folks there. I've organized communities with immigration-related concerns, so that was a fun part of my career working in community organizing. In drug and alcohol counseling, I work with college students, in hospital settings with HIV positive individuals. So I'm really love what I do. And now I get to work for myself alongside my wife. We have our private practice in Easton, Pennsylvania. So I get to take all this experience and really make it about our work and as opposed to working for an institution and those policies. Now we really get to almost like having fun and really cool with working for myself and working with people at a different capacity. So I'm really excited for this part of my journey where I'm at now. But thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. And the other thing that I just keep going back to with you and Natalie's work is how it's heavy. It's very heavy work. And yet you both are always so excited to share about it and to talk about how passionate you are about it. And it really takes a special person to be able to, listen to these really, traumatic stories often and help people through these times, but still maintain that mental place of, loving to be a part of that journey and that help, which is incredible.
Yes, thank you. And the stories are heavy, and no 2 days are ever alike, which is part of the intrigue and the joy of the work that I do throughout my career. And also, well, now I have my wife and we work together and we go through our supervision process together, but also a team of colleagues that I love. And we're almost like the NBA that we switch teams because we run into each other and see each other. So I mean, and there's certainly the education piece and the ongoing, what we call clinical supervision and how we get support and feedback on our cases. But yeah, we out of all the stories and out of all the hurt and the pain, there is the potential and there is the growth that takes place, the vulnerability and the power of the changes that are in the conversations that go through in the space that are very uplifting. And in spite of all the things that folks have gone through, that they're still able to truck along and grow. And it's almost like you get to, when they come into our space, it's really special because you see the potential that they still haven't seen, that they haven't really explored. And as they're sharing all these concerns, like, wow, just the power of stories and what people have been through. It's really exciting. I really love what I do.
Oh, wow. Now, so how did you decide to become a therapist, Jonathan?
Yeah, so it was completely by chance. In college, I was a business major, and I wanted to work in the hotel and restaurant industry, following along the footsteps of my dad. He was in the hotel industry. That was his career. So I worked with him for a little bit. And then I had a good friend of mine in college, and we were just talking about, he was a psychology major, and we were talking about like what it is that we wanted to be. This is my first year, my first semester, first year student. And he was telling me about psychology and what the profession is and what people do. And it sparked an intrigue in my mind. Later, I think that same day, I talked with my parents about maybe I want to be a psychologist. That was my goal at that time, to be a psychologist. Because that's all I knew. And my parents were very supportive, and I got to really talking to my friend. And next thing you know, I'm in the advising office, switching majors, and that's where my path took me. And then I've been very privileged and lucky to work with different populations pretty much as soon as I graduated college. So actually, I was doing some forms for the public service loan forgiveness piece there. But my first job out of college, I'm looking at the paper right now, is May 21st, 2007. And I had graduated college like 5 days before. So I went right to work. And that was really cool, really neat, just to see. One is a textbook piece, the theories, and now, like a week later, I'm in this group therapy room and hearing stories, and I was just like, wow, just blown away by it, and really excited about what this means for me as a journey. But yeah. So
Isn't it so? I love hearing how, it just takes that one random person who you have a conversation with sometimes, and that sparks an interest, or even to know that it's a career path. And I always love those stories, or if it's not a person, it's, a documentary someone watched, or it's a class someone happened to take, and then it changes the course of their whole career, it's so interesting to hear you had something like that happen.
I did, and it was really special because I haven't looked back since. Like it was almost like, oh yeah, no, this makes sense. This is intriguing. This is exciting, and wow, I'm really happy. And
Yeah.
a master's degree and now a private practice. So yeah, I was
Yeah,
having
it's like all the acronyms after your name now, all the acronyms.
yeah, exactly.
Yes. So, hey, Jonathan, you hinted to some already, but are there any good news moments you'd like to share, maybe from specific, parts of your job that have really made a difference in your life, or times that clients have come back to you to talk about what a difference you've made?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, there's parts of our conversation in the vulnerability that happens in the rooms where a client will say to me, I really thought about what you said, or I came back, and there's this part of them that is feels comfortable in sharing. Perhaps to me as a clinician, it is a part of a reflection of what they had said to me, but it really stuck with them, and they thought about it, and then they come back and they say, this is how it impacted me in a good way. So I always find those moments to be really excited. Like in my head, I'm like, yes, I'm really excited when they say things like that. And also when we're working together for some time, and they're able to see, feel, and even verbalize all the good things that they came from the very first session that we saw, that I could see as an outsider. Like, wow, all these great qualities that you have, that they're able to kind of see, like, this is who I am, this is who I'm becoming, is very special. Yeah, so certainly those things stand out for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I also loved on your website, you had, I don't remember exactly how it's worded, but kind of talked about how you mentioned at the beginning of this, the potential that people don't see in themselves, and how just sometimes like they don't need a traumatic event to walk into therapy, but just to show up for themselves and then see where they can grow and find that potential. So I'm hearing all these stories from you, and it's wonderful to hear about that.
Yeah, certainly. A lot of times, and this is just almost talking to a little bit about the stigma that might be out there for mental health, that in order for me to see a therapist or talk to a therapist, that there must be something wrong with me, or that must have a disorder or something going on in my brain. And the answer is no, we're human beings. Even when things are going well, it's okay to talk to a therapist. So yeah, and well, I do appreciate, I feel like there's been some progress being made in terms of the stigma and normalizing therapy. And sometimes some of our clients will treat therapy almost like a gym membership, that they have a therapist, which is so lovely. And also there's part that's still, as a profession, we want to do more in terms of normalizing access.
Yes.
And making it more convenient and addressing some of those barriers. But yeah, you do not need to be going through a hard time to talk to a therapist. That's totally okay.
So no, Jonathan, are there any mantras or quotes you find yourself telling your clients all the time, or maybe telling yourself, especially on the hard days?
Yeah, so one that I even use for myself is well, one, when things get so difficult, I just have to get through the day. Sometimes I need to get through this minute or this hour as a way to almost challenge what's happening, what I have to do, my task list, my workload. I just need to get through today. Another thing is I encourage folks to name their inner critic. That's helpful because sometimes we're really hard on ourselves, myself included, and I have to check that. So naming and challenging that inner critic.
Is this a la like Silenzio Bruno?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that it's not the first time that's come up in one of these interviews either.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I do find that helpful. And also being mindful and intentional. I think there's a lot of talk in that we might see about, checking in with ourselves, giving ourselves that love, and there's beautiful, wonderful words out there. But if I'm applying it to myself, I want to be really mindful of that. I want to be intentional about, just showing up for myself, giving myself that love that I deserve, and really setting those intentions. I think has been helpful for me. As a therapist, it's not so much that I'm giving people advice. That's not necessarily how the space works. In the exploration, I interweave some of these comments in there, and people do tend to subscribe to that, and it helps here and there. It's not making everything better 100%, but those are helpful reminders that help us get through when things become challenging.
Well, even just, I know firsthand that you don't just talk the talk, so to speak, but you embody it, you walk it, you set that example for everyone too, which is huge.
Absolutely. And that is key, because I can also speak to how challenging it is to do it, as opposed to me prescribing solutions or answers. That no, we can also speak to, as a professional therapist, that I do this for a living, that it's still hard for me sometimes to do X, Y, and Z, or have it all together. And this is what I need to do to check on myself, to dial it back and say, okay, wait a minute, how I can take care of myself, because I need to show up for my family. I need to show up for work the next day. I have to recharge.
And it's a lot. So wait, that leads me to, before my last question, I have to ask a little bit more, like on top of your full-time job, the quote unquote 9 to 5, you've also spent so many years working a hotline, volunteering, adding in part-time work for, nonprofits. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And I know you're really humble, so that's why I had to make sure to bring it up, but talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I've worked for most of my career has been around community nonprofits, which has allowed me the opportunities to volunteer, to support the community in different capacities that I've been really privileged. So I want to acknowledge the folks who have given me those opportunities. One of them was working with homeless individuals in after hours on-call service. And I did that for over 10 years. And
Wow.
yeah,
Wow, that many years.
yeah. And I probably would have been doing it to this day had there have been some changes in the organization. But I thought that was the strength, I mean, we're talking about individuals who are homeless calling for shelter, and the fact that, you know, the stories that you hear, the power of talking to a stranger on the phone, and I have, you know, there's an intake, and I have to help them find an emergency shelter. But in those spaces, you hear, even within the difficult moments, you hear the strength of, you know, it took a lot for me to call and share, this is what I'm going through, and to seek help. And I don't know what tomorrow is going to be, or I don't even know where I'm going to sleep tomorrow, but at least tonight I have a safe place to sleep. And that's again, bringing it back to I just need to get through today and tonight. I will say, with that work and supporting the homeless individuals, it was nice to see certain stories that they were able to find secure housing. They were able to reconnect with family. So it wasn't all as challenging, as traumatic as those moments were, but there were some spaces when folks got the help that they needed. Additionally, I worked alongside community organizing, volunteered in helping undocumented immigrants seek access to consular services, because transportation to New York City can be a challenge when you don't have a vehicle or a driver's license. So one of the things we did was bring in the consulate from New York City to a rural community, and to bring where the folks were, and that was really special, really helpful. Hundreds of people were able to have basic ID, things that they couldn't otherwise get, and hundreds of dollars to get to the city and taking off work was very helpful. And lastly, with my work at the hospital, we volunteered, which was really fun. We did a community garden, and we grew vegetables and to provide to the food pantries, food banks, because a lot of food pantries in Allentown area, you get canned food. You really don't get access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So we grew our own garden, and would supply vegetables to the food pantry. And that was so fun. That was so interesting, and it even sparked. And we're at home. We're also starting our garden because of that. Like, it's just so special to grow your own vegetables, eat them, and at this point was offering to community members that don't have access to fresh vegetables like that. So yeah, that was fun.
Oh, incredible. Oh, there's another thing that, I've observed too, is that it's easy to broadcast all the volunteer and the extra work, and to kind of show that part to the world. Like, oh, I'm working 12 hours a day because I'm doing 4 hours of volunteer after work, or, oh, I'm doing this charity event. And you so quietly do it and so humbly do it, that I think that's really incredible too. And also a great reminder that we don't even always see the extra work that people are doing in our communities, and they're there. You're out there. You're such an example of that. And I think that's such an important reminder too, that, especially it's so easy to just judge people right away, or be like, your life seems in order, or you go to work 8 hours and then that's it. But really, there's so many more layers. You're after work, in addition to your family, you're doing these volunteer activities and whatnot. But instead of broadcasting to the world, you're just showing up each day and doing the work. So thank you for that. That's spectacular.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for acknowledging that. And I think too, as a family, as a father, as a husband, I also want to show my kids that and myself too, that I as an immigrant, like, I've accomplished so much through hard work. And we can give back. We can give back to the community. We can give back to the neighborhood center down the street. I don't need to go far. I can do it from home, making phone calls. That I want my children and my community to know that there's an opportunity to give back as little or as much as you can. Kids, no kids, that's okay. Give what you can, and and just be kind, human, and this is, I'm in a position to give back, and why not?
Okay, so you just made the perfect segue to the final question. Thank you. Perfect segue. So if someone came to you and they said, I want to give back, I don't know where to start. Just what would you tell that person?
Yeah, so I would tell them a few things. One, I would really ask them, well, what is it that you're into? What is it that what speaks to you? Because anyone can go to a church or a food pantry, but if that's not your thing, it's going to feel forced. It's not going to feel genuine. So what is it that you're into? And if there's a community organization nearby that you might be able to partner with, or a school. I think a lot, at least for us here in the area, we have their Facebook community group things for people who are on Facebook. That will actually I've seen some posts, people asking one for kids to volunteer, which is nice. I've actually been seeing a lot of teenagers and young adults asking for volunteering opportunities, which is super cool. And as well as adults who are now volunteering their time. So follow your passion, see what you're into, and certainly reach out to either a school or a Facebook group as well. I know for us in our community here, we have a neighborhood association. So some communities might have a group of community members that might get together. Even at school, if you can volunteer to help watch kids, so the parents can go to the parent meetings, and that's, again, if that's your thing, that's okay too. But there's no, you can always give something, even if it's a translation or a phone call, there's work that you don't have to go anywhere if you don't want to. I know it's COVID too, so volunteering looks a little different.
Yeah, but absolutely there's opportunities everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Certainly get involved, but certainly follow your passion, follow what you're into. What is important to you? That would be my first step.
Great advice, Jonathan. I cannot thank you enough for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Katie, for inviting me.
You bet. So please tell us where we can find you online and follow you. You have some great Instagram accounts too that are really fun and educational too.
Yes. So we have a website, Renew Wellness Psychotherapy.com. Our Instagram handle is @Renew Wellness. And then I have @Renew Wellness _Espanol. So I have some Spanish speaking content there. What's it?
That'll be in the show notes as well. Jonathan, Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to Some More Good News with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and/or left a review. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.